total private wealth held in Africa amounts to approximately $2 trillion. South Africa is home to over twice as many millionaires as any other African country, while Egypt has the most billionaires on the continent. There are 22 billionaires living in Africa, each with net assets of $1 billion or more. Total private wealth held in Africa is expected to rise by 30% over the next 10 years, reaching $2.6 trillion by 2030. For more, we're joined by Andrew Amoils, who is a wealth analyst at New World Wealth. Andrew, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's break down the concept of wealth. When we say wealth, what exactly does it entail?
Well, for our purpose, it includes net assets, so people's residential property, cash, equities, business interests. We mainly focus on listed company holdings, so sometimes our stats are slightly on the conservative side, but we take into account all assets, and then we obviously exclude liabilities.
So let's get into the actual reports. Let's talk about the big five wealth countries. What are they?
Yes, South Africa is the wealthiest country in Africa. It's home to about twice as many millionaires as any other country in Africa, and also the wealth, total US dollar wealth, about double the next country, which is Egypt. And then Nigeria is in third, then Morocco, and then Kenya. Those five are well ahead of the next one, which is Ethiopia in sixth place.
It's quite interesting to note that total wealth dropped 16% over the past decade. What contributed to that?
So total wealth held in Africa dropped by 16% over the past decade. That's in US dollar terms. So a lot of it's to do with the fact that a lot of the currencies depreciated against the dollar, and the stock markets in some of the bigger countries. Not all of the countries have stock markets, but the ones that didn't do particularly well. And in particular, the big three wealth markets in Africa, South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria, had a bit of a tough past decade in terms of US dollar wealth growth.
What is quite interesting as well, which I absolutely loved, apart from Mauritius having beautiful weather, it also has an impressive growth rate. What are some of the possible reasons for that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Mauritius has got one of the highest growth rates over the past decade, and even if you go back further, there's a lot of reasons for it. It's quite an easy place to do business according to various indices. It's obviously got a very fast-growing financial services sector, and a lot of wealthy people have moved there. And it's got quite a good tax structure in terms of having no inheritance or capital gains tax. So it's appealing to a lot of people, and it's quite a safe country. So all those things together have probably helped it grow quite strongly over the past 10 to 20 years.
I'm keen to understand South Africa's performance. One of the things you touched on was the fact that when we look at that drop in total wealth, some of the possible reasons was the significant loss of currency value. But when we look at it from a South African perspective, what could be some of the reasons there?
As you mentioned, one of the big ones is the rand drop from about 7 rand per dollar in 2010 to about 15 rand per dollar in 2020, which is obviously the review period. Also, a large number of businesses closed down, especially in the SME space. The JSE was actually down in US dollar terms by about 12% over the past decade. And then also quite a lot of wealthy people left South Africa. And then also the prime property market, which is obviously the top-end property market, didn't do particularly well over the past decade, and in particular homes valued at over 10 million rand, which obviously a lot of high net worth have become quite difficult to sell.
What was the impact of the coronavirus on high net worth individuals or the wealthy, especially as it relates to their spending habits? It had quite a big effect across Africa. Maybe not so much on South Africa, but across the board in Africa, it results in about a 9 to 10% drop in total wealth in Africa over the past year. And a lot of that's to do with drops in salary levels and job losses. Also, the travel, hospitality, manufacturing, and real estate sectors were quite heavily impacted in particular. Also,
the residential property market weakened, and also a large number of businesses closed down. And that affected most countries in Africa across the board, and most of them also experienced a slight depreciation against the dollar in 2020.
If you take stock of your research over the past, couple of years, as well as the data that you've had to, sift through, what would you say are some of the, suppose call it the drivers that encourage wealth growth?
There's a lot of them. Safety is a big one. So having strong safety and security, and obviously the efficiency of the local police forces is quite important. So if you look at some of the wealthiest countries in the world by per capita wealth, places like Australia and Switzerland, they tend to be quite strong in that area. Also, media freedom is a big one, which South Africa actually scores quite well in, because South Africa's got quite a big free media and quite a big financial media, which is not the case in a lot of other emerging markets. Strong ownership rights is a big one. Obviously, a well-developed banking system and stock market, and tax rates. Obviously, lower tax rates encourage wealth formation, and as shown in countries like the UAE and Singapore.
Andrew, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That is Andrew Amoils, who is a wealth analyst at New World Wealth. And it's also quite interesting to know that collectibles are a growing segment in Africa. Some of those including art, classic cars, as well as top-end watches. But I'll be back at the top of the hour with more of your news. However, your weather details are coming up next.